February 1948. The Strait of Malacca, between Sumatra and Malaysia. One of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Two American vessels, the City of Baltimore and the Silver Star, are navigating these waters when their radio operators pick up a distress signal. It's faint, broken, transmitted in Morse code. But the words are clear enough to chill anyone listening. SOS from Ourang Medan. We float. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and on bridge, possibly whole of crew dead. End of quote. There's a pause, static. Then one final transmission. I die. End of quote. Silence. The Silver Star changes course immediately, racing toward the coordinates. When they arrive, they find the Dutch freighter Ourang Medan drifting in calm seas. The ship is intact. There's no fire, no collision damage, no sign of distress. But when the rescue crew boards, they discover something that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. The entire crew is dead. Every single person. They're scattered across the deck and throughout the ship, sprawled in doorways, slumped over railings, lying on their backs. Their eyes are wide open, staring at nothing. Their mouths are frozen mid-scream. Their arms are reaching upward, as if trying to ward off something invisible. The ship's dog is dead too, teeth bared in a snarl, frozen in the same expression of absolute terror. And there's not a single wound on any of them. No blood, no signs of violence, no indication of what killed them. Before the rescue team can investigate further, smoke begins pouring from the cargo hold. They evacuate immediately. Minutes later, the Ourang Medan explodes in a massive fireball and sinks to the bottom of the Strait of Malacca. All evidence goes down with it. For over 75 years, investigators, maritime historians and scientists have tried to explain what happened on the Ourang Medan. The theories range from toxic gas to paranormal phenomena, from piracy to government conspiracy. But every theory has a problem. A piece of evidence that doesn't fit. A question that can't be answered. This is the Ourang Medan, the ghost ship where everyone died with terror frozen on their faces. The maritime mystery that may not have an answer, or may not have even happened at all. Welcome to 404 Mystery Found, where we investigate history's greatest unanswered questions. So settle in. What you are about to hear is not a campfire story. These are documented forensic mysteries where every clue leads to a dead end, and every answer only raises a darker question. Act 1, the distress call and the discovery. Let's start with what we think we know. And I say think because the Ourang Medan case is unusual in one critical way. There are almost no official records. No ship's log was recovered. No cargo manifest exists in any maritime archive. No death certificates were filed. The Dutch government, whose flag the Ourang Medan supposedly sailed under, has no record of a vessel by that name ever being registered. So everything we know comes from secondary sources, newspaper reports, maritime journals, and witness testimony from the crew of the Silver Star. With that caveat in mind, here's the story. The ship. The Ourang Medan was allegedly a Dutch merchant vessel, approximately 400 feet long, built in the 1930s or early 1940s. The name Ourang Medan translates roughly from Malay as man from Medan, Medan being a city in Sumatra, Indonesia. The ship was reportedly carrying cargo from a Chinese port to Costa Rica. Traveling through the Strait of Malacca, a narrow, strategically vital waterway between the Indonesian island of Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. In February 1948, the ship was navigating these waters when something catastrophic happened: the distress signal. On the morning of February 1948, the exact date is disputed in different accounts, radio operators on 2 American ships picked up a distress call. The first ship was the City of Baltimore, an American freighter. The second was the Silver Star, also American. Both ships were within range of the distress signal, which was transmitted in Morse code on an international emergency frequency. The message was fragmented, as if the sender was struggling. Let me read the full distress message as it was received, reconstructed from the radio logs. SOS from Ourang Medan. Position: Strait of Malacca. We float. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and on bridge, possibly whole of crew dead. End of quote. There was a pause. Then the radio crackled back to life. The transmission was garbled, almost incoherent. Then came the final words: I die. The signal went dead. The radio operators on the City of Baltimore and Silver Star immediately triangulated the position. The Silver Star, being closer, altered course and steamed at full speed toward the coordinates. Captain James Whitfield of the Silver Star later described the urgency. We knew something terrible had happened. The message said everyone was dead, but a ship doesn't just kill its entire crew. We had to get there fast. End of quote. It took the Silver Star several hours to reach the coordinates. When they arrived, the scene was eerily calm. The boarding. The Ourang Medan was drifting, not sinking, not on fire, just drifting. The seas were calm. The weather was clear. There was no visible damage to the hull or superstructure. Captain Whitfield ordered a rescue party assembled. First Mate Jansen, accounts vary on his first name, led a team of 4 men. They lowered a lifeboat and rowed across to the Ourang Medan. As they approached, they noticed something disturbing. There was no one on deck, no one at the helm, no response to their hails. They climbed aboard using a rope ladder. The deck was silent except for the creak of the ship and the slap of waves against the hull, and then they saw the first body. Let me describe what they found, based on Jansen's account as reported in maritime journals in 1948 and 1952. The deck. Bodies were scattered across the deck. Some were lying on their backs. Others were slumped against railings. One man was sprawled in a doorway, as if he'd been trying to get inside when he died. Every single one of them had the same expression. Their eyes were wide open, staring upward. Their mouths were open, frozen in what looked like screams. Their arms were extended upward, bent at the elbows, as if they were trying to push something away. Jansen described it like this: their faces. I've never seen anything like it. They looked like they'd seen something so terrifying, so unimaginable, that it killed them. Every single man had the same look of horror. End of quote. The rescue team moved carefully through the ship, searching for survivors. The bridge. On the ship's bridge, they found the captain. He was lying on his back near the ship's wheel, arms raised, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. His face was frozen in the same expression of terror. Next to him was the ship's navigator, also dead, also staring upward with that same horrified look. The chart room. In the small room where navigation charts were kept, they found 2 more officers. Dead. Same expression. One of them was pointing at something, his arm extended, finger aimed at the ceiling, the radio room. This is where the rescue team found the radio operator. He was slumped over his Morse key, his hand still resting on the transmitter. He had died in the act of sending that final message. I die. His face was frozen in terror, eyes wide open. Below deck, the rescue team descended into the crew quarters. More bodies, same expression. Crew members dead in their bunks, in the galley, in the engine room. All of them staring, mouths open, arms raised. Janssen counted at least 20 bodies. Some reports say as many as 30. The exact number was never confirmed because of what happened next. The dog. In one final, deeply unsettling detail, the rescue team found the ship's dog, a large breed, possibly a German Shepherd, lying on the deck. It was dead, teeth bared in the snarl, frozen in the same posture of terror as the crew. Janssen later stated, even the dog looked like it had seen something that terrified it to death. I've been at sea for 20 years. I've seen men die in storms, fires, collisions. I've never seen anything like this. End of quote. The rescue team searched for any sign of what had killed the crew. No wounds, no blood, no trauma. The bodies were still warm. They hadn't been dead long, but there was no indication of disease, poison, or violence. And then one of the crew members shouted from below deck, "Smoke!" Act 2, the explosion and the investigation. Smoke was beginning to seep from the cargo hold. Thin wisps at first, then thicker plumes. The temperature in the lower deck was rising rapidly. Janssen made the call immediately, evacuate. The rescue team abandoned the Ourang Medan and rowed back to the Silver Star as fast as they could. Captain Whitfield ordered the crew to prepare a tow line. They would try to tow the Ourang Medan to the nearest port for a full investigation. But before they could attach the line, the smoke turned to flames. At approximately 2 p.m., less than an hour after the rescue team had boarded, the Ourang Medan exploded. Witnesses described a massive fireball erupting from the cargo hold. The explosion was so violent it lifted the ship partially out of the water. Debris rained down across a quarter-mile radius. Within minutes, the Ourang Medan broke apart and sank. The crew of the Silver Star watched helplessly as the ship, and all the evidence of what had killed its crew, disappeared beneath the surface of the Strait of Malacca. The aftermath. Captain Whitfield filed a report with the US Coast Guard and the International Maritime Organization when the Silver Star reached port. He detailed everything: the distress call, the discovery of the bodies, the explosion. The report triggered an international investigation. The Dutch government was contacted, since the Ourang Medan was supposedly flying a Dutch flag. The Indonesian authorities were involved, since the ship sank in Indonesian waters. The US Navy dispatched investigators, but the investigation hit immediate problems. Problem number 1, no ship registry. The Dutch government had no record of a ship named Ourang Medan ever being registered in the Netherlands. No construction records. No ownership documents. Nothing. Investigators checked every variant spelling. Ourang Medan, Ourang Medan, Ourang Medan. Still nothing. Problem number 2, no cargo manifest. If the ship was carrying cargo from China to Costa Rica, there should have been customs paperwork, bills of lading, export licenses. None existed. Problem number 3, no survivors, no bodies. The ship had sunk. No bodies were recovered. The rescue team from the Silver Star could provide witness testimony, but there was no physical evidence. No autopsies could be performed. Problem number 4. No wreckage. The Ourang Medan sank in relatively shallow waters, approximately 200-300 feet deep. In theory, the wreck could be located and explored, but despite multiple search efforts over the decades, the wreck has never been found. Some researchers believe this is because the coordinates were imprecise or the ship drifted before sinking. Others believe the ship never existed at all. The first theories. In the absence of physical evidence, investigators in the late 1940s and early 1950s developed theories based on the witness testimony and what little was known about the ship. Theory number 1. Poisonous cargo. The lead-in theory at the time was that the Ourang Medan was carrying a toxic or poisonous cargo, possibly chemicals or nerve agents left over from World War II, which had ended just 3 years earlier. If the cargo leaked, it could have released toxic fumes throughout the ship, killing the crew rapidly. The expressions of terror could have been caused by asphyxiation or neurotoxin exposure, which can cause muscle spasms and facial contortions. The explosion could have been caused by the same volatile chemicals igniting when exposed to air or heat, evidence supporting this theory. The crew died quickly and simultaneously. No visible wounds. The ship exploded shortly after being boarded. Post-WT era saw a lot of black market chemical weapons being transported illegally. Problems with this theory. Why would a toxin cause such uniform facial expressions? Why would the crew have time to send a distress call if they were dying from a fast-acting poison? If the cargo was toxic, why didn't the rescue team get sick when they boarded? Theory number 2. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Some investigators suggested a carbon monoxide leak from the ship's engine or boiler. Carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, and deadly. It can kill an entire crew quickly if it fills the ship. Evidence supporting this theory. Carbon monoxide poisoning causes confusion, panic, and convulsions, which could explain the terrified expressions. It kills quickly. It would explain why there were no wounds. Problems with this theory. Carbon monoxide typically causes a cherry red discoloration of the skin. The rescue team didn't report this. Why would the crew members be scattered across the ship, including on the open deck, where carbon monoxide wouldn't accumulate? Why did the ship explode afterward? Act 3. The modern theories. Methane, murder, or myth. For decades, the Ourang Medan case was largely forgotten except by maritime historians and mystery enthusiasts. But in the 1990s and 2000s, new researchers revisited the case with modern scientific knowledge and more advanced theories. Let's examine the most compelling modern explanations. Theory number 3. Methane gas eruption. In the 1990s, scientists discovered that the ocean floor in certain areas releases massive bubbles of methane gas, a phenomenon caused by decomposing organic matter trapped in underwater sediment. When a large methane bubble rises to the surface, it can displace oxygen in the air, causing rapid asphyxiation, create a dead zone where anyone breathing the air loses consciousness in seconds, ignite explosively if exposed to any spark or flame. In 2003, Australian scientist Dr. Ivan T. Sanderson proposed that the Ourang Medan sailed directly over a massive methane release. The ship is cruising in calm seas. Suddenly, a methane bubble erupts from the sea floor directly beneath the ship. methane gas floods across the deck and into the ship's ventilation system. The crew members on deck collapse immediately, asphyxiating within seconds. Those below deck suffocate as methane fills the compartments. The expressions of terror are caused by the brain's panic response to sudden oxygen deprivation. The ship drifts for hours. Eventually, the methane disperses. When the rescue team boards, the air is breathable again, so they don't notice anything wrong. But residual methane is still seeping from the cargo hold. When it reaches a critical concentration and encounters a hot surface, boiler, engine, electrical spark, it ignites, causing the explosion. Evidence supporting this theory. The Strait of Malacca is geologically active, with underwater volcanic vents and methane seeps. Methane asphyxiation causes convulsions and facial contortions. Methane is highly explosive. No wounds, no toxins needed. Problems with this theory? Why would the crew have time to send a detailed distress call if they were asphyxiating? Methane is lighter than air. It would dissipate quickly on an open deck. No other ships in the area reported methane eruptions. Theory number 4. Illegal chemical weapons transport. This is the most widely accepted theory among serious researchers. It suggests the Ourang Medan was involved in illegal arms trafficking, specifically transporting chemical weapons left over from World War II. In 1948, the world was entering the Cold War. Nations were desperate to acquire military technology, including chemical weapons like mustard gas, phosgene, and early nerve agents like sarin. After WO2, massive stockpiles of these weapons were left in Asia. Some were destroyed, many were not. A black market emerged for these weapons. The Ourang Medan was secretly transporting chemical weapons or nerve agents. The cargo was improperly stored or secured. During the voyage, the containers leaked. Nerve agents are among the most lethal substances ever created. Sarin, for example, kills within minutes by causing uncontrollable muscle spasms, respiratory failure, and convulsions. Victims' faces contort in agony, eyes bulge, mouths open in silent screams. The crew was exposed to the nerve agent. They died horrifically, their facial muscles frozen in spasm. The ship's captain or radio operator, realizing what was happening, sent the distress call before succumbing. The explosion occurred because the chemical weapons were volatile and ignited when exposed to heat or oxygen after the cargo hold was breached. Evidence supporting this theory perfectly explains the terrified expressions, nerve agent symptoms, explains the rapid, simultaneous deaths, explains the explosion, explains why there's no official record, government cover-up to hide illegal arms trafficking. The Dutch government's denial could be deliberate. They don't want to admit involvement. Problems with this theory. Why didn't the rescue team get exposed when they boarded? If it was a covert operation, why use a merchant vessel with a name and flag? No concrete evidence of chemical weapons has ever been found. Theory number 5. Piracy and murder. Some researchers believe the Ourang Medan was attacked by pirates. The Strait of Malacca had been a piracy hotspot for centuries. Pirates boarded the Ourang Medan, killed the crew, possibly with poison, and stole the cargo. They set charges in the cargo hold to sink the ship and destroy evidence. But the distress call went out before they could stop it. When the rescue team approached, the pirates fled. The charges they'd set exploded shortly after, sinking the ship. Problems with this theory. Pirates typically leave evidence: wounds, bullet holes, signs of struggle. Why would pirates poison the crew instead of using weapons? How did pirates cause such uniform expressions of terror? No cargo was missing when the rescue team boarded. Theory number 6, the hoax theory. This is the theory gaining the most traction among skeptical researchers. The Ourang Medan never existed. The entire story is a hoax, urban legend, or misidentified incident. The evidence for a hoax: no official records, no ship registry, no cargo manifest, no death certificates, no Dutch records. The Netherlands has meticulous maritime records. No Ourang Medan exists in any archive. No wreck. Despite multiple searches, no wreck has ever been found. No physical evidence. No bodies. No photographs. No recovered items. Inconsistent accounts. Different tellings of the story have different dates, different crew sizes, different details. Possible misidentification. Some researchers believe the story conflates multiple real incidents. The Dutch ship Ourang, real ship, lost in 1939. The SS Medan, a real ship that caught fire in 1948. A Chinese vessel that exploded in the Strait of Malacca in 1947. The counter-argument. Skeptics point out that the story first appeared in reputable sources. A 1948 article in the Dutch newspaper De Locomotief, a 1952 article in Proceedings of the Merchant Marine Council, a US Coast Guard publication, multiple witness testimonies from crew members of the Silver Star. If it's a hoax, it's an elaborate one involving fake newspaper articles, fake government documents, and multiple false witnesses. The middle ground. Some researchers believe something happened in the Strait of Malacca in 1948. A ship did explode, people did die, but the details became distorted over time, turning a tragic but explainable maritime accident into a supernatural legend. Act 4. The Unanswered Questions. So what really happened to the Ourang Medan? Here's what we're left with. If the story is true, a ship carrying an unknown cargo sailed through the Strait of Malacca in 1948. Something, a chemical leak, a methane eruption, a nerve agent, or something else entirely, killed the entire crew in a matter of minutes, leaving their faces frozen in expressions of absolute terror. The ship exploded before investigators could determine the cause. All evidence was lost. If the story is false, the Ourang Medan is a maritime legend, possibly based on real incidents but embellished over decades into a ghost story. No ship by that name existed. No crew died with horrified faces. It's a cautionary tale, a sailor's myth, or deliberate disinformation. The problem: we can't prove either version. There's just enough evidence to suggest something happened, but not enough to say definitively what. The case sits in that frustrating space where it's too well documented to be dismissed entirely, but too lacking in physical evidence to be solved. The legend endures. In 2010, a team of maritime historians attempted to find the wreck of the Ourang Medan using modern sonar and deep-sea exploration technology. They searched a 50-square-mile area of the Strait of Malacca, where the ship supposedly sank. They found nothing. In 2018, the Dutch National Archives released a statement. We have no record of any vessel named Ourang Medan ever being registered in the Netherlands or its territories. But the story refuses to die. It appears in maritime mystery books, documentaries, and internet forums. It's been referenced in TV shows and podcasts, and every few years, someone claims to have new evidence or a new theory. because the Ourang Medan represents something fundamental about the ocean. It can swallow ships, crews, and evidence whole, leaving behind only questions. If the story is true, somewhere at the bottom of the Strait of Malacca lies a rusted hull filled with bones and secrets, a ship that died screaming. If the story is false, it's one of the most enduring maritime legends ever created, a ghost story that refuses to be debunked because there's nothing to debunk. Either way, the Ourang Medan endures, a ship full of the dead, staring upward at something invisible. A distress call that ended with "I die," an explosion that destroyed all answers. And 75 years later, we still don't know what they saw. You've been listening to 404 Mystery Found. Thank you so much for tuning in this far. Subscribe so you won't miss our next mystery. Until next time.